How many times have you swallowed insults, humiliations, and slights in the name of keeping the peace? I'm not suggesting you pick fights with everyone. This is about reclaiming your right to exist with dignity. If you never learn to meet conflict head-on, it will gnaw at you from the inside. Yearning for harmony, you'll bottle up your anger and resentment until one day you either erupt in the worst possible way or retreat into numb apathy, convinced that being good means being harmless. But nature offers another path, a philosophy that breaks the cycle of submission and shows us that conflict, far from our enemy, can be a route to freedom. In what follows, we'll explore nature's take on the fear of confrontation, trace how this slave morality still rules our thoughts, and, most importantly, discover how to overcome it. Ready for some hard truths? Stay with me. You might never see yourself or the world the same way again. To understand why you dread conflict so much, we must go beyond personal grudges and delve into the deep roots of our moral history. Friedrich Nietzsche, in On the Genealogy of Morals, lays bare a ruthless process. The values we call good didn't emerge from lofty virtue, but from weakness, resentment, and a desperate need for the powerless to defend themselves. Picture a world where strength was authority. Noble warriors never apologized for asserting their will. They set limits, stamped their presence on the world, and celebrated strength, courage, greatness, and self-reliance as the highest goods. But the weak, the defeated, the resentful, lacked power and could not win in this game. So they reshaped morality from within, inverting its values. Strength, pride, and boldness became evil, while weakness, obedience, and humility were elevated into virtues. This new moral code, what Nietzsche calls slave morality, didn't arise from a genuine love of goodness, but from self-preservation, a denial of life's force. It lauded retreat, renunciation, and passivity as noble choices, when in truth they were defensive reactions to impotence. You might think this is ancient history, but it's alive today. From childhood we're told, don't answer back, be nice, keep the peace. We learn to equate confrontation with evil and submission with virtue. Every time you stay silent, bow your head, or sidestep conflict to preserve a facade of harmony, you're bowing to this slave morality. That doesn't mean you're inherently weak. It means you've been taught that asserting your will, setting boundaries, and claiming your power are wrong. You've been indoctrinated to believe that goodness equals harmlessness, trapping you in a psychological pattern where the fear of confrontation, of taking a stand or owning your power, holds you back. The more you shy away, the deeper this slave morality takes root. Next, we'll explore the poisonous emotion that grows in that silence: resentment. It's the secret engine of your passivity, slowly undermining your life from within. If you're finding this meaningful, click subscribe and stick around. Tougher truths lie ahead. Now that you see how slave morality shaped your dread of conflict, let's examine resentment, one of its most corrosive byproducts. Nietzsche dissected this emotion mercilessly in On the Genealogy of Morals. Resentment emerges when a vital urge to act, assert yourself, impose your will is blocked. The drive doesn't vanish, it contracts inward and becomes poison. A resentful person wants to stand up, confront the offender, claim their space, but fear and powerlessness hold them back. Unable to act, they craft a moral narrative to justify their inaction. I'm superior because I don't react. I'm nobler because I forgive. I'm better because I refuse to argue. Behind these claims of moral high ground festers unacknowledged anger, unprocessed frustration, and a sense of impotence that rots the soul. You feel this every time you swallow an insult and then replay what you should have said for hours. That's resentment. When you endure someone's abuse of your kindness and simply see the inside, that's resentment. When you pretend you're at peace but actually brood over crushed boundaries, that's resentment. Nietzsche warns that the resentful aren't mere victims, they're accomplices in their own imprisonment. By refusing to confront necessary conflict, you feed your inner poison. Over time, it destroys you from within, creating a vicious cycle. The more you run from confrontation, the deeper your resentment grows, and the more paralyzed you become. Soon, you're trapped in bitterness and self-pity, exactly the state this slave morality intended. The saddest aspect is that many people grow used to this state and start defining themselves by it. They become willing martyrs, taking pride in their so-called virtue, when in reality, they are trapped by their own fears. However, nature doesn't doom us to this destiny. There is a way out, a path of deep transformation that involves nurturing the will to power, the ability to assert your existence without shame, guilt, or fear. In the next section, we will explore how to reclaim this vital force and permanently break free from the cycle of submission. Up to this point, you've observed how the morality of subservience and resentment influence fear of conflict and confine lives. However, Nietzsche was not merely an observer of these soul ailments. He actively sought paths to overcome them. The key to liberation from this confinement is found in one of his most profound ideas: the will to power. This concept has often been misinterpreted throughout history, with some mistakenly equating it to a simple desire to dominate others. This is a significant misconception. When Nietzsche refers to the will to power, he is describing something much deeper: the essential drive of life. Every living being aspires to expand, assert itself, grow, and surpass its own boundaries. This is the will to power. It is the force that drives a seed to break through the soil, a young animal to explore its surroundings, and a human to create, conquer, and transcend. Yet, the morality of subservience attempts to stifle this will. It advises against asserting desires, standing out, confronting challenges, or being daring. It seeks to confine you to a small, harmless, and manageable existence. Suppressing your will to power does not eliminate it. Instead, it becomes corrupted and turns inward, leading to resentment, passivity, and self-pity. Regaining your will to power involves reconnecting with the vital energy you were taught to fear. It means shedding the illusion that submission is virtuous, embracing the reality that life involves conflict, and recognizing that conscious confrontation is a form of affirmation, not meaningless violence. First, recognize that fearing conflict is not a virtue. It's a vice that you've inherited and now need to overcome. Begin by taking a stand on small matters, learning to say no, setting boundaries, and reclaiming your right to exist fully. Next, develop the courage to face life's unavoidable conflicts with awareness and presence, not to destroy others, but to assert yourself in the world. The will to power isn't about oppression. It's about ending your own oppression and living with integrity, a straight spine, and a free soul. Nature understood that this transformation doesn't happen instantly. It requires a profound inner rebirth. To explain this process, we have one of philosophy's brightest metaphors: the metamorphosis of the spirit from camel to lion and from lion to child. In the next part, we'll explore how to stop being the camel burdened by submission and become the lion that conquers freedom, finally transforming into the child that creates new values. Nature not only exposed the hidden poisons of slave morality and resentment, but also provided us with a symbolic map for the inner transformation we must each undertake to break these chains. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, the three metamorphoses of the spirit are described: the camel, the lion, and the child. This isn't just a metaphor, it's an existential roadmap to liberation. We'll begin with the camel. The camel symbolizes the spirit that carries burdens, bending under the weight of others' expectations, social norms, and moral obligations imposed by a culture that celebrates passivity. You must be obedient, humble, swallow your anger, and avoid confrontation. The camel accepts everything, showing strength in endurance. But this strength is unproductive. It is the strength born from resignation, not from creation. And worse still, the camel finds pride in its suffering. The more it endures, the more it convinces itself of its virtue. This is the state in which most people dwell, and perhaps as you listen, you recognize yourself here. But nature does not permit us to remain in this place forever. Eventually, the spirit of the camel rises up in rebellion. It can no longer tolerate the weight of the lies it bears. It yearns for freedom. It longs to assert its own existence. And for that, it must transform into a lion. The lion embodies the spirit that dares to say no. No to external commands, no to slave morality, no to roles that diminish its essence. It symbolizes the awakened will to power. Yet, notice, the lion does not seek destruction simply for destruction's sake. Its battle is for territory, an inner space where authenticity can thrive. To claim this inner space, the lion must confront the greatest of dragons, the dragon of thou shalt. This formidable beast gleams with 1,000 scales, each inscribed with a command. Thou shalt be humble, thou shalt submit, thou shalt avoid conflict. Facing this dragon demands courage. You must withstand disapproval, criticism, and rejection. You must navigate the guilt deeply embedded within you since childhood. But this struggle is necessary. Only by uttering a genuine and deliberate no can you break free from the chains of submission. Finally comes the last metamorphosis, the child. The child represents a reborn spirit, free from the camel's burdens, liberated from the lion's defensive posture. Now, the spirit is creative, not reactive. It generates its own values, decides where it will yield and where it will defy. It lives lightly, authentically, and joyfully. At this stage, conflict transforms. It stops being a battleground and becomes an arena for creation. You no longer aim to defeat others, but rather to affirm yourself, true to your authentic nature. This is the genuine rebirth that nature intends for you. Yet to reach this point, you must brave the flames of confrontation. You must journey through the desert of rejection and doubt. You must shatter, once and for all, the chains of fear that hold you back. This brings us to a critical question. How do you uncover your true self beneath these layers of fear and submission? Nature provides a powerful answer through ecce homo, the path of becoming who you genuinely are. In our next segment, we will explore precisely this. You will grasp why facing conflict is vital in uncovering your true identity, and how embracing this journey can profoundly transform every aspect of your life. Now that you've grasped the transformation from camel to lion and from lion to child, it's crucial to understand what's truly at stake. Nietzsche challenges us with one of his philosophy's most profound and provocative concepts: becoming who you are. In Ecce Homo, he presents this idea as both an invitation and a caution. Becoming who you are isn't spontaneous or automatic. Rather, it's a fierce battle. The first conflict you must overcome is precisely the fear of confrontation. Reflect for a moment. How often do you live your life for others? How frequently have you taken paths simply to please your parents, partner, friends, or boss, even when it's not what you truly desired? How many times have you held back your truth to avoid discomfort? Nietzsche reveals this as life's most insidious trap. Many never become who they truly are, instead living behind masks, playing roles, conforming to expectations. But this false harmony exacts a severe toll. Each time you suppress your genuine will, a piece of you perishes. Every time you sidestep meaningful conflict, your identity fades further. Each yes, when your heart demands a no, pushes you further from your authentic self. Nietzsche understood that the fear of conflict isn't merely a behavioral issue, it's an existential barrier. Conflict is the forge of identity. Through clashes with the world, with others, and with ideas, you discover what you genuinely value, what you sincerely believe, and what you truly desire. Without conflict, there is no self-knowledge. Without self-knowledge, authenticity cannot exist. Without authenticity, life becomes nothing more than empty theater. Thus, becoming who you truly are requires courage to confront necessary conflicts. Saying no to others' expectations, rejecting imposed roles, and resisting the instinctive urge to conform for acceptance. But Nietzsche reminds us that this path is profoundly personal. There are no ready-made templates for who you must become, no universal morality you must follow. You must carve out your own path, values, and way of life. This solitude can be frightening because stepping outside the herd's rules means initially losing approval, applause, and perceived security. Yet in exchange, you gain something far more precious: integrity. Each conflict faced consciously moves you closer to yourself. Each boundary clearly set is an act of self-affirmation. Every moment you voice your truth, even when trembling with fear, you step toward genuine selfhood. Nietzsche doesn't promise comfort. He promises the possibility of living authentically. And this authenticity is infinitely more valuable than any social validation, though it requires accepting an uncomfortable truth. Silence in the face of injustice, abuse, or oppression isn't virtue, it's complicity. In the final part of this exploration, you'll understand why the silence you've mistaken for kindness actually fuels the very oppression you endure, and how to decisively break this harmful cycle. Having reached this point, it's time to confront a reality many prefer to ignore. Your silence comes at a steep cost. How often have you convinced yourself that remaining silent was wise, that speaking up wasn't worth the struggle, wouldn't change things, or was best left alone? How frequently have you quietly tolerated humiliation, disrespect, and abuses large and small, all for the sake of supposed harmony? Here's the truth. Every time you choose silence in the face of injustice, you're not neutral. You reinforce the oppression. You teach others that this treatment is acceptable, allowing harmful patterns of domination and disrespect to persist both in your life and society. Nietzsche recognized clearly that a morality rooted in fear leads not to peace, but spiritual degeneration. Silence born from fear doesn't build a better life. It builds a tomb for your spirit. People notice when you're reluctant to assert yourself, and those with ill intentions exploit this hesitation. Silence doesn't protect, it exposes. Each boundary left unspoken invites trespass. Each truth left unsaid allows falsehoods to flourish. Nietzsche teaches us that authenticity requires courage, not the absence of fear, but the determination to act despite fear. Conflict, when necessary, is the space where integrity asserts itself. It's where you demonstrate to yourself and the world that you have a backbone, values, and limits. Next time you feel the urge to stay silent, ask yourself honestly, am I truly being wise, or am I merely being cowardly? This question, answered truthfully, has the power to change your life. Remember, becoming who you are doesn't happen in complacent silence. It unfolds through courageous self-affirmation, essential confrontations, and inevitable conflicts. You were never meant to be an eternal camel, burdened by others. Within you reside the lion and the child, the strength to say no, and the creativity to build your own authentic life. This requires action, and it requires starting now. If this message resonated with you, comment below. I choose to no longer remain silent. Writing these words is your first step toward genuine change. And don't stop here. Continue your journey. The next video is just as essential, helping you deepen this transformation process. I'll see you there.